I used to notice something when I gave lectures. I would be standing at the front of a room full of people who had made an effort to come. They had arranged their evening. Some of them had traveled a distance. They wanted something from the hour. And a great many of them would sit there all the way through with their arms folded tightly across their bodies. And I would look out at them and think, well, how is anything going to get in? Now, I am not being unkind about that. It is a comfortable way to sit. It is what you do when you are cold or tired or slightly unsure of yourself in a room full of strangers. But it stayed with me because it was such a perfect picture of something much larger. Most people are folded, not just their arms. Their whole posture toward life is closed and slightly braced, and it has been for so long that it does not feel like a position anymore. It feels like being sensible, and then they wonder why so little seems to reach them. Opening your arms is a very simple gesture, and it is not a small one. It says something. It says, I am available. It says, something may arrive here and it will not be turned away at the door. Now let me tell you what this is not before we go any further, because the word appreciation has been badly handled and a great many of you will be braced against it. This is not about being positive. I am not going to ask you to put a bright face over a difficult week. I am not going to ask you to say that everything is wonderful when it plainly is not, or to be grateful for something that hurt you. You can appreciate your life and still be having a hard time. Most people who genuinely do this are having a hard time. That is rather the point. What I want to talk about is something much more mechanical than the word suggests. There is a real and observable relationship between what you notice and what arrives, between what you are able to receive and what you are given, between what you let out and what comes back. And once you can see that relationship working, you stop having to be talked into any of this, because you will simply watch it happen in your own week. So let us unfold and let us begin. Appreciation is not politeness. I want to be clear about this early, because a great many people have been taught gratitude as a form of manners, and it does almost nothing for them. It is not saying thank you nicely. It is not counting your blessings because you have been told you ought to, particularly by somebody who was really telling you to stop complaining. And it is certainly not that awful business of comparing yourself to somebody worse off in order to shame yourself into feeling better, which never works and which makes people feel guilty on top of feeling sad. So what is it? It is a direction of attention. That is all. And attention is not neutral. Whatever you look at gets larger. Now, I do not mean that in some mystical way. I mean it in the plainest possible way, the way anybody who has ever bought a particular kind of car will recognize. You buy the car, and suddenly that car is everywhere, on every road. They were always there. Your attention simply began accepting them as relevant. Your life works exactly the same way. And you have been running that mechanism unsupervised for decades. If you focus on lack, then lack is what you will draw toward you. Not because the universe is punishing you, because you have instructed your own attention to file everything under the category of what is missing. And it is extremely obedient, and it will find you evidence all day long. Let me show you what this looks like in an ordinary day. Two people have essentially the same Tuesday. Some things go well and some do not, as is the case in almost every Tuesday that has ever occurred. The first one gets into bed and does an inventory. The thing that went wrong at 11, the remark somebody made, the email that has not been answered, the item that did not get done. And they lie there running through it, and they wake up tired, and by Thursday they will tell somebody that things have been difficult lately, and they will be reporting accurately on what they have been attending to. The second one gets into bed and notices something else, that the difficult conversation was got through, that somebody was kind at the shop. that the body carried them around all day without being asked, that there is a bed at all, and that this is not universal, same Tuesday. Genuinely the same one, hour for hour. But those are two different lives, and in 10 years, they will not look remotely alike, because one of those people has been marinating in what is absent and the other has been noticing what is present. And both of them are building something. Now, here is the part I want to be careful about, because this is where these teachings become unbearable if they are handled badly. Appreciation does not require you to pretend that the difficult thing is not difficult. If you are grieving, you are grieving. If you have lost something, you have lost it. If your week has been genuinely hard, then it has been, and no amount of listing 3 good things is going to make that untrue. And anybody who tells you otherwise is not being helpful. They are being uncomfortable in your presence. You can be grateful and grieving in the same hour. That is not a contradiction. That is simply what an adult life is, most of the time. I am not asking you to swap one for the other. I am asking you to let the second one exist alongside the first, because at the moment, for most people, it is not permitted in the room at all. Now let me say something about how we speak, because appreciation and complaint are both directions, and most of us are fluent in only one of them. I once worked with a woman who was trying to describe the work she wanted, and she could not do it. Every time she tried, it came out backwards. I do not want this to be part of the job. I do not want that to happen. I do not want to feel the negative energy there. And I kept saying to her, but what do you want? She could not say. She had never practiced it. She had spent so many years being precise about what she was escaping that she had no vocabulary at all for what she was moving toward. And a great many people are like that. Ask them how they are, and they can give you 11 minutes without pausing. Ask them what is going well, and there is a silence, and then something vague, and then usually a joke. That is not a personality. That is a skill that has been practiced in one direction only. And skills can be practiced in the other direction at any age, starting this evening. So we begin to be specific about what is good with the same precision we have always given to what is wrong. Not things are all right, I suppose, but the coffee this morning was very good, and I drank it while it was still hot, but my knee did not hurt today. But that person laughed at something I said, and I'd forgotten I could do that. Precision is the whole thing. Vague gratitude does nothing. Specific noticing changes what your attention accepts as relevant, and then your attention goes out and finds you more of it all day without being asked. Now, I want to say something about complaining because it is the other half of this, and nobody enjoys hearing it. Complaining is enjoyable. Let us be honest about that, since pretending otherwise is why most people fail at this. There is a genuine pleasure in it. It is companionable. 2 people complaining together are having a lovely time, and they are bonding, and the conversation flows without any effort at all. Try starting a conversation with a stranger by describing something that went well and see how far you get. Then try it with a complaint about the weather or the trains or the price of things, and watch the door open. So I am not going to tell you that complaining is beneath you. It is a social currency, and everybody spends it. What I want you to notice is only this. Every time you tell the story, you are practicing it. I was a great complainer for years. I want to be clear about that, because I do not want you thinking this came naturally to me. I was full of self-pity, and I loved it. And I loved sitting down in the pit and describing the view. And what I did not understand at all was that every time I told the story, I was ordering more of it. I was building a case, refining it, getting better at seeing the evidence. And life kept obligingly supplying me with material, and I kept saying, you see, this always happens to me. And it never once occurred to me to ask who was doing the ordering. So here is a small experiment for this week, and it is more useful than anything else I could give you. For one day, Notice how many times you say something about your life out loud. Do not change anything. Do not scold yourself. Just count. And then notice roughly what proportion of those were complaints and what proportion were appreciations. Most people are startled, not because they are bad people, but because nobody has ever asked them to look, and the ratio is usually somewhere around 20 to 1. And then, the following day, do not stop complaining. That will not work and you will fail by lunchtime. Simply add say one appreciative thing out loud to another human being that you would not normally have said out loud to a person, so that it costs you something. The soup here is very good. You did that well. It was kind of you to remember. I like this time of the evening. That is all. Add one, because you are not trying to become a different sort of person by Friday. You are trying to shift a ratio slightly, and ratios shift very easily, and then they keep shifting on their own. Say this with me now. I am grateful for what I have, and I am open to more. And again, I am grateful for what I have, and I am open to more. Now, most people cannot actually do this. And I want to be clear that it is not because they are ungrateful people, and it is not because they are not trying. It is because nobody ever taught them how to receive. Here is something that took me a long time to understand, and it changed how I saw almost everything. Prosperity is not about getting. It is about allowing yourself to accept. People always think in terms of acquiring. I want to get this, and I want to get that, and once I have got them, things will be different. And so all their effort goes into the getting, and they cannot understand why the results are so poor. But when you are not getting what you want, very often, on some level, you are simply not allowing yourself to accept it. Much of the trouble comes from an inability to receive. We can give. Most of us are quite good at giving. It is receiving that defeats us completely. Let me show you what I mean with something very small, because the small version is where you can actually see it. Somebody gives you a gift. Now what do? If you say, oh, you shouldn't have, or this must have cost a fortune, or it's lovely, but I think it's the wrong size, I can take it back. Or, now I feel terrible, I didn't get you anything. I promise you that person will not give you another gift. Not out of spite. They simply learn that giving to you is uncomfortable, and people do not repeat uncomfortable things. The correct response, and it is the whole practice in one line, is to smile and say thank you. That is it. That is all. And if it genuinely is not right for you, then quietly give it to somebody who can use it later without making it into an event. Now, watch yourself the next time somebody pays you a compliment, because the same machinery runs, and it runs faster. They say, that was really good. And before you have consciously done anything at all, something in you says, oh, it was nothing. Or, well, anybody could have done it. Or, you should have seen the first draft. Do you see what has happened? Somebody handed you something and you put it straight back down on the table without looking at it. And people do this dozens of times a week and then wonder why they feel unappreciated. Try the other thing. Just say thank you and let it be awkward for a second and let it land. It is astonishing how difficult that is the first few times, and it tells you a great deal about how much you have been refusing. Now, there is a particular compulsion I want to talk about, because almost everybody has it and almost nobody has examined it. The compulsion to reciprocate immediately. Somebody takes us to lunch and we are already thinking about when we can take them to lunch. Somebody gives us a gift and we go out and buy one of similar value quickly so as not to be in arrears. Somebody helps us and we are anxious until we have helped them back. Now that looks like generosity. It is not generosity. It is discomfort at being on the receiving end and a strong wish to get back to being the one who gives, because that is the position where we feel safe and where we retain the upper hand. There is nothing wrong with reciprocating. But notice if you cannot bear not to. because life perceives our openness to receive as something rather different from an exchange of favors. It is not a ledger, and the person who is always frantically balancing the books is a person who is not letting very much in. I want to tell you about a man I knew because his situation is more common than people admit. He came to me feeling terribly guilty. He had been through a bad period, and friends had helped him a great deal with money and with other things. And now he could not pay any of it back, and it was eating at him. And the guilt had almost spoiled the friendships. And I said to him, there are times when the universe gives to us in whatever form we happen to need, and we simply cannot give it back. That is not a failure. That is a season. And in whatever way life has decided to respond to your need, be grateful for it, take it, say thank you. Because there will come a time when you help somebody else. It may not be with money, it may be with time, or with attention, or with sitting in a room with somebody who is frightened. And we do not always realize that those things are often worth a great deal more than money. I can think of a good many people in the early part of my life who helped me enormously at a time when there was no possible way for me to repay them. And years later, I have had the chance to help others. That is how it circulates. It does not have to return to the same person. And life is not keeping a ledger, even if you are. And there is something else in that man's situation that I want to name because it affects a great many people who would never describe themselves as proud. Refusing help is not humility. It looks like humility. It is usually described as not wanting to be a bother, or not wanting to impose, or knowing that everybody has enough on their plate already. But underneath it, very often, is something else entirely. It is the belief that you are not worth the trouble, or it is the wish to remain the strong one, the capable one, the one who manages, because being the person who needs something feels intolerable. And so people struggle alone through things that 3 friends would gladly have helped with, and they call it independence. And afterwards they feel obscurely resentful that nobody helped, though nobody was ever told. I would like you to notice this week how quickly the words come out of you. I am fine. Do not worry about it. I have got it. No, honestly. Notice the speed. That speed is the tell. It is faster than thought, which means it is not a decision. It is a reflex, and reflexes were installed by somebody. And consider that when you refuse help, you are also taking something from the other person. You are taking their chance to give. People genuinely like helping. It makes them feel useful and connected, and you have just removed that from them in order to preserve a position. Letting somebody help you is a gift you give them. That is not a clever reframing. It is simply true, and you know it is true from the other side because you have felt it when somebody let you in. Now, let me widen this considerably, because when I say prosperity, most people immediately hear money, and money is only one of the smaller items on the list. Prosperity includes time, love, success, comfort, beauty, knowledge, relationships, health, and yes, money as well. So let us go through some of them, and I would like you to notice honestly which one is thin for you, because it is very often not the one you would have named. If you are always feeling rushed and there is never enough time to do the things you actually want to do, then you have a lack of time, and that is a lack. It sits in your body exactly like poverty does. If you feel that success is somehow beyond your reach and always will be and is for other sorts of people, then you are not going to get it because you have already excused yourself from the room. If you experience life as burdensome and strenuous, then you will always feel uncomfortable regardless of your circumstances. I have met people in very comfortable circumstances who experience every day as an ordeal. If you believe you do not know very much and that you are not clever enough to work things out, then you will never feel connected to the wisdom that is available to you, because you have decided in advance that you are not eligible for it. If you feel a lack of love and your relationships are poor, it becomes very difficult to attract love because you are radiating the shortage. And what about beauty? There is beauty all around us, quite genuinely, in enormous quantities and completely free. Do you experience it, or do you look out at the world and mainly see something ugly and wasteful and dirty? That is a real question, and it is not a moral one. Two people walk down the same street. One sees the litter. One sees the light on the buildings at that time of the evening. Both of those things are on that street. Both people are correct. They are simply living in different worlds. And health, are you unwell constantly? Do you catch everything going? Are there aches and pains and a general sense that the body is against you? And then money, which so many people tell me there is never enough of. So let me ask the question that cuts through most of this. What do you let yourself have? Not what do you want. What do you actually permit? And if you are thinking, well, I am on a fixed income, I would gently ask you this: who fixed it? I am not being flippant, and I am not suggesting that anybody can simply decide to have more money. But the word fixed is worth examining, because a great many people have accepted a ceiling and then described it as a law. Say these with me now. I am open and receptive to all good. I accept graciously. And once more, and notice if anything squirms. I deserve the best, and I am willing to accept the best. Now, there is a condition on the flow, and it works in both directions. Whatever we give out in life, we get back. That is not sentimental, and it is not a reward system. It is simply cause and effect, and it operates on all levels, all the time, whether we are paying attention to it or not. If we belittle people, we find ourselves belittled. If we are angry, we encounter anger wherever we go, and we cannot understand why everybody is so hostile lately. If we are generous, generosity turns up around us in ways we did not arrange. If we take, we lose. If we give, we get. It cannot really be otherwise. Now, before I go one step further, I want to say something very clearly, and I want it heard properly, because this teaching has been used badly by a great many people, and it has hurt some of them. This is not about deserving hardship. If you are struggling with money, that is not a judgment on your character. If you have been robbed, that was not your doing, and the person who did it is responsible for it, not you. If you were born somewhere with very little, or into a family with very little, then none of that is a verdict on you, and I will not have it presented as one. I am not describing a court. I am describing a pattern that is worth examining in the areas where you actually have some room to move. And with that said, let me tell you what I have noticed, because it is worth noticing. When somebody tells me they have just been robbed, or that they have had some sort of loss, my first question is often, and who have you taken from lately? And a curious look comes over their face. And I know I have touched something tender, because when a person thinks back to a time they took something and then thinks about what they lost shortly afterward, the connection can be quite an eye-opener. It is rarely a matching pair. We take some money or some object, and then we lose a relationship. We take a relationship, and then we lose a job. We lift stamps and pens from the office, and then we miss a train or a dinner we had been looking forward to. The losses almost always land somewhere that matters to us far more than the thing we took, and a lot of people rationalize it. They take from a large company or a department store or a hotel on the grounds that these places can afford it. But that rationalization does not work, because cause and effect does not check the size of the other party's accounts. It continues operating for each one of us, regardless of who we think can spare it. Now, most people listening to me would never dream of stealing an object. So let me talk about the other kinds of taking, which are far more common and which we almost never call by that name. We take people's time. We are late repeatedly, and we treat somebody's afternoon as though it were less valuable than ours. We take people's self-esteem. And this is the big one. Every time we make another person feel guilty, we are taking self-worth from them. That is a theft, and it is a serious one. And a great many perfectly decent people do it several times a week without ever registering it. We take confidence with a small remark, a little correction in front of others, a joke at somebody's expense that we would describe as affectionate. We take credit quietly by not mentioning who actually had the idea. To be honest on all these levels takes a good deal of self-examination. And it is uncomfortable work, and almost nobody does it. Now, here is why it matters for our subject today. And this is the part I want you to really hear. When we take something that does not belong to us, we are instructing ourselves about the nature of the world. We are saying, I do not feel worthy of earning this. I am not good enough to be given it. There is not enough to go around. I must be sneaky and grab because nothing comes to me otherwise. And those beliefs become walls, very effective ones. They stand around you and they keep abundance and joy on the outside. And it does not matter how much you affirm in the mornings if you are laying bricks in the afternoon. Those beliefs are not the truth of who you are. You are magnificent and you deserve the very best. And this planet is abundantly plentiful. But your good comes to you by the state of your consciousness. And the work is always the same work. Refining what we say and what we think and what we do, being honest, right down to the last paperclip, is not about being a goody-goody. It has nothing to do with morality or with getting caught. It is an act of love toward yourself because it makes your life run more smoothly and it stops you laying bricks. If dishonesty brings disharmony into a life, imagine what honesty and love can bring. Now let me talk about giving, because the other half of the flow is where most people go wrong in a different way. There is an old principle of giving back a portion of what comes in. 10% is the traditional figure. Churches have always encouraged it for obvious reasons. And in more recent years, people have widened it to mean giving back wherever you receive your spiritual nourishment. I like to think of it simply as giving back to life. And when people do it, they seem to prosper more. I have watched it happen too many times to dismiss it. So who has nourished you? Who or what has actually helped you on the way to improving the quality of your life? That may be the right place for you. And if giving to a church or to a person does not appeal to you at all, there are a great many good organizations doing real work, and you can find the one that is right for you. But there are two things I must say about this, and the second one matters more. The first is that people say, I will give when I have more money. And of course they never do. There is never a moment when a person who does not give suddenly feels rich enough to start. If you are going to do this, begin now, at whatever size is genuinely real for you. It may be a very small amount. Small is fine. The amount was never the point. And the second thing, if you only give in order to get, you have missed it entirely. It must be freely given or it does not work. Giving with a hook in it is not giving. It is investing, and everybody involved can feel the difference, including you. I give because life has been good to me, and I am glad to give back to it in various ways. That is the whole of my reasoning, and it is sufficient. And giving is not only money, it never was. You can give attention, which is rarer than money and worth more. You can give somebody the benefit of the doubt. You can give somebody your full presence for 10 minutes without looking at anything else. You can give somebody credit out loud in front of other people. Those cost nothing, and they circulate immediately. Say these with me now. I give freely, and I receive freely. Life has been good to me, and I gladly give back to life. And once more, I give freely, and I receive freely. Now there is one more thing standing in the way. And you inherited it before you could count. Almost everything you believe about whether there is enough was handed to you before you could count. A great many of our parents grew up through genuinely hard times, through depressions, through wars, through years when the fear was not theoretical at all. And they passed the fear along, usually without meaning to, in ordinary sentences said across a kitchen table. We could lose the house, we may not find work, money does not grow on trees, people like us do not get those opportunities, do not get your hopes up. There is never enough. Put it back, we cannot afford it. And here is what children do with those sentences. Very, very few children say, no, that is nonsense. Children do not have the equipment to evaluate. They hear the sentence, and they hear the fear in the voice underneath it, and they say, yes, that is right. That is how the world is. And then they carry it for 50 years into completely different circumstances, and they never once take it out and look at it. So here is an exercise, and I would like you to actually do it rather than just hear it. Sit down with a piece of paper and make a list of your parents' beliefs about money. Genuinely write them out. What did they believe about who has it and how it comes and what sort of people have it and what it means about you if you do not? And then extend it. What did they believe about deserving, about asking for things, about people who wanted more than they had and what those people were like? And then go down the list one at a time and ask yourself a very simple question. Am I still choosing to believe this? Because that is what it is. A choice made a long time ago by somebody who was not consulted. Your life is not their life. Your circumstances are not their circumstances. The years they were frightened of are not the years you are living in. You are permitted to go beyond your parents' limitations and beyond their fears, and doing so is not a betrayal of them. Most of them would want it if you could ask. So stop repeating those sentences to yourself, and when an opportunity turns up, do not automatically echo your family's history of lack. Notice the old sentence arriving, and then say something different. It is all right for me to have money, and I will use it wisely. That is a perfectly good place to begin. Now, let me tell you about a woman I knew, because her situation shows you that this was never about the amount. She had plenty of money, she had it all her life, and there was never a period when she did not have it. And she lived in genuine fear that she would not be taken care of. Real fear, the kind that keeps a person tight. And when we traced it back, her relationship with money had been formed in a household where her father used it to manage everybody, and where affection and support came with conditions attached and could be withdrawn. So her lesson was never about earning more. She had more than she could use. Her lesson was to let go of the fear that she could not take care of herself, because even without any of that money, she could have. And I have seen this so many times. The fear does not scale with the bank balance. People with a great deal are often just as frightened, and sometimes considerably more so, because now they have something to lose. Which brings me to something I want to say plainly. Since this is a video about appreciating your life, and I do not want it mistaken for a video about getting rich, money is not the answer. A great many of us believe that if we simply had enough of it, everything would come right. No more problems, no more worry, but it is truly not the answer. Some people have all the money they could ever need and are not remotely happy. And if you do not know how to receive and do not know how to notice what is in front of you, then more of it changes absolutely nothing except the size of the numbers you are anxious about. I would rather you left this able to enjoy an ordinary Tuesday than able to afford a better one and unable to feel it. Now, a word about debt, because some of you are carrying it and you have been waiting for me to make you feel worse about it. If you are in debt, the thing to do is forgive yourself, not berate yourself. Berating has never once paid off a debt. It simply adds shame to arithmetic. And shame makes people avoid the envelopes, and avoiding the envelopes makes everything worse. So put your attention on it being paid rather than on the size of it. See it decreasing. Handle it in the daylight rather than in a panic at midnight. Speak to the people you owe rather than hiding from them, which is nearly always less frightening than the avoiding was. And this too, it is completely normal and natural to have more at some times than at others. Life has seasons in it and always has. If you can trust that you will be taken care of one way or another, you can move through a lean stretch without bracing your whole body against it, knowing there will be more later. The bracing does not help. It never once produced a single thing. It only means you are exhausted when the season turns. Say these with me now. It is safe for me to have. I move away from poverty thinking and into prosperity thinking. And once more, I go beyond my parents' fears. I am safe, and all my needs are met. So let us finish by actually saying yes, because there is a word here that changes things, and it is a very small one. The word is yes. Life says yes to you. That is what I have come to believe, and I have staked a good deal on it. Whatever you present, the answer that comes back is yes, which is wonderful news and also a rather serious responsibility, because it means we want to be careful about what we are presenting. So when something comes into your life, do not push it away. Say yes to it. Say yes to your world, and what becomes available to you increases enormously. Not a little, enormously. Now let me give you the practice, because I do not want you to leave with a feeling instead of a habit. Feelings from videos last about 4 hours. Habits last. There are 3 things, and they take almost no time at all. The first, 3 things before sleep, not big things. Do not go looking for the extraordinary, because on most days there is not any, and then you will conclude the exercise does not work. Ordinary things, specific ones. The bath was hot, somebody let me out at the junction, the soup was better than expected, that song came on, my back did not hurt this morning. The dog was pleased to see me, as it is every single day, which I have entirely stopped noticing. Precision is the whole thing, not I am grateful for my family. That is a category, and categories do nothing. Say the actual moment. What your daughter said in the car, the particular way the light came into the kitchen at 4 o'clock. Because what you are training is not your mood. You are training what your attention accepts as worth registering. And once it accepts that ordinary good is worth registering, it will begin bringing you more of it all day without being asked, in exactly the way it currently brings you every small irritation. The second thing, accept one thing each day without deflecting it. One compliment, one offer of help, one kindness, and you say thank you, and you stop talking, and you let it be slightly uncomfortable. That is the entire exercise, and it is much harder than it sounds. Notice what rises up in you when somebody gives you something. Notice the reflex to diminish it, to explain it away, to immediately even the score. And then do not do that just once a day. And the third thing, give one thing without keeping score, not necessarily money. Attention, your full presence for 10 minutes. Credit said out loud in front of other people. The benefit of the doubt to somebody who probably does not deserve it. Give it without mentioning it, and without waiting for the acknowledgement, and without adding it to anybody's account, including your own. Now, there is one more piece, and it is the one people leave out. When something genuinely good happens, go and stand in front of the mirror and say thank you to yourself out loud. Because most people race straight past their own good days. Something goes right, and within 4 minutes they are worrying about the next thing, and they never once stop and look at themselves and say, well done, that was you. You did that. You are perfectly willing to hold yourself responsible when things go badly. You do it immediately and thoroughly, so you must also take the credit, or the arrangement is simply cruel. Acknowledge yourself for having created that experience. It takes 10 seconds. Now, let us finish together. I would like you to get comfortable, and I would like you to actually do this next part rather than imagining it. Uncross your arms. If your arms are folded, unfold them. If your hands are clasped, let them come apart. Let them rest open, palms upward, on your knees or beside you. And notice what happens in your body when you do that. Notice that it feels slightly exposed, slightly less defended, that there is a small part of you that would rather fold back up. That is the whole thing in miniature. That is what has been happening at a much larger scale for years. Take a slow breath in and let it go. And another, and let your shoulders come down. Now, if you are somewhere private, open your arms wide, properly wide. It is a symbolic gesture, and symbols are not nothing. Let your body say the thing your mouth has not been able to. And say these with me slowly. I am open and receptive to wonderful new ideas. I allow good to enter my life on a level it has never entered before. I deserve the best, and I am willing to accept the best. I move away from poverty thinking into prosperity thinking. I love myself. I rejoice in who I am. Life is here for me, and it will supply me with everything I need. I move from success to success, from joy to joy, and from abundance to abundance. I am open and receptive to all good. Take one more breath and let your hands rest. Now, here is the last thing I want to say to you. There is so much abundance in this world simply waiting for you to experience it. If you truly understood that there is more money in circulation than you could ever spend, and more people than you could ever meet, and more joy available than you could possibly imagine, you would stop clutching. You would have everything you need because you would stop guarding a small portion of something enormous. There is enough. There has always been enough. The shortage was in the receiving. So notice 3 things tonight. Say thank you once tomorrow without diminishing it. And give 1 thing away without telling anybody. That is all. That is the whole practice, and it costs you nothing, and it will change what your life looks like within a season. And when something arrives, whatever it is, do not fold your arms. Say yes. Say yes to your world. All is well in my world. And so it is.
Click the first link in the description and watch the free healing presentation, where you will learn how to truly heal from the root and finally stop piecing your healing together in fragments. This will show you the complete path to heal fully, gently, and deeply from A to Z.